My beloved child, do not rush past this moment, for there are graces in the area of finances that I once placed in your hands, which darkness is quietly trying to exchange. I have prepared a portion of blessing, bearing your name for a very long time, waiting only for you to open your heart and take hold of it. Do not let this moment slip away. I know how tired your heart has become. I know how exhausting it is to smile in front of people, while silently wondering how you will pay your bills, carry your responsibilities, or survive another month of pressure. I know the hidden anxiety you carry every time your phone lights up with another payment reminder. I know the sinking feeling in your chest when you check your bank account, hoping something changed, only to see the same emptiness staring back at you again. And what hurts you most is not only the lack itself, it is the fear attached to it. The fear that your life will never move forward. The fear that you will always struggle while others seem to rise so easily. The fear that no matter how hard you work, peace keeps slipping through your fingers. My child, I have seen every silent battle. I saw the nights you could not sleep because your mind kept racing with numbers, debts, responsibilities, and uncertainty. I saw you lying awake while everyone else rested, wondering how long you can continue carrying this weight alone. I heard the quiet sighs you never spoke aloud. I heard the prayers you whispered when no one else was around. And I want you to hear me carefully now. This is not just exhaustion. Something deeper has been fighting your peace. There is a reason you have felt emotionally drained even when you try your best. There is a reason every breakthrough has seemed so close, yet somehow slips away at the last moment. There is a reason your heart has felt trapped between hope and disappointment for so long. Stay with me, because the next part of this message may explain what you have never been able to understand. My beloved, you thought your struggle was only about money. You thought if you simply worked harder, tried longer, stayed stronger, everything would finally change. And yes, effort matters, wisdom matters, faithfulness matters. But what you do not yet realize is that some battles are not visible to human eyes. You keep blaming yourself for being tired. You keep accusing yourself for feeling weak. But carrying constant financial stress slowly crushes the soul when it continues without relief, especially when you have already done everything you know to do. I saw you try to remain positive. I saw you encourage others while secretly feeling empty yourself. I saw you celebrate other people's success while wondering why your own prayers still seem unanswered. And sometimes you feel guilty for even asking those questions. But my child, I am not angry at your exhaustion. I understand it completely. I know how painful it feels when opportunities disappear, when doors almost open, then suddenly close again, when money arrives only to vanish as quickly as it came, when emergencies keep appearing one after another, leaving you no space to breathe. You began wondering if peace was only for other people. You began questioning whether financial stability would ever truly come into your life. You started lowering your expectations because disappointment hurt too much. But listen carefully now. Do not allow temporary delay to convince you that you were abandoned. For I have spoken over your life already. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Those words were not written only for others. They are for you too, even now, while fear whispers that nothing will ever change. I am still working in places you cannot yet see. My child, the enemy of your peace has tried to convince you that lack is your identity, that struggle is your destiny, that stress is normal for you, that abundance belongs to other people but not to you. But that voice does not come from me. I never created you to live in constant fear. I never intended for anxiety to rule your thoughts every morning and every night. I never desired for your heart to become so overwhelmed that you lose the ability to dream again. Yet something inside you has slowly become weary, not because you are lazy, not because you are weak, but because prolonged disappointment can quietly drain hope from the human heart. And that is exactly what darkness wants. It does not always attack loudly. Sometimes it attacks silently through delay, through discouragement, through repeated disappointment, until a person slowly stops expecting good things to happen anymore. That is why this message found you today, because I do not want your faith to die in silence. I know there were moments you smiled while secretly panicking inside, moments when you nodded confidently in front of others, while inwardly wondering how you would survive financially. Moments when you pretended to be okay because you were tired of explaining your struggles. But I saw through every mask. I saw the pressure sitting on your shoulders. I saw the tears you held back. I saw the fear you tried to hide from even yourself. And still, I remained beside you. My beloved child, hear me now. Your current situation is not the final chapter of your story. This season of pressure is not proof that I forgot you. The delay is not evidence that your prayers were ignored. And your financial struggle is not proof that you are cursed, rejected, or abandoned. But what if your delay was never random? What if something deeper has been happening beneath the surface this entire time? What if the battle was never only about money, but about your peace, your identity, your faith, and your future? Stay with me, because what I am about to reveal next will begin uncovering why nothing has been moving the way you expected. There are forces that try to exhaust you emotionally before your breakthrough arrives. For if they can make you hopeless, they can make you stop believing. And once a person stops believing, they stop preparing for the blessing I was about to send. That is why you must guard your heart now more than ever. Do not let fear become your permanent language. Do not let anxiety become the voice that defines your future. Do not keep calling yourself forgotten when I have been carrying you this entire time. You may not realize it yet, but you survived things that should have broken you completely. The fact that you are still here listening to these words means I have not released my hand from your life. I know you feel tired. I know you feel delayed. I know you feel emotionally worn down by financial pressure. But your story is not over. The breakthrough you have prayed for has not disappeared. The blessing attached to your name has not been erased, and the future I prepared for you has not been canceled. My child, listen closely. This next part is important, because soon you will begin to understand why every time you came close to peace, something seemed to pull it away again. And when you finally see what has been happening beneath the surface, everything will start making sense. My beloved child, I know what you have been telling yourself for a very long time. Maybe I am just unlucky. Maybe success was never meant for me. Maybe some people are simply born with favor, and I am not one of them. You tried to explain away the disappointments as coincidence. You tried to convince yourself that the repeated financial struggles were simply bad timing. But deep inside, there has always been a quiet question haunting your heart. Why does it keep happening again and again? Why do opportunities come close, only to disappear at the last moment? Why do breakthroughs seem near, then suddenly collapse without warning? Why does it feel like every time you finally begin moving forward financially, something unexpected pulls you backward again? Stay with me now, because what you are experiencing is not as simple as you think. My child, I saw every moment you tried to rebuild after disappointment. I saw you gather your strength after every setback. I saw you motivate yourself one more time even when your heart was exhausted. And I know how painful it became to keep hoping, only to watch things fall apart again. At first, you believed it was just a season. Then you thought maybe you needed more discipline. Then you blamed yourself for not being smarter, faster, stronger, or more prepared. But after enough disappointments, something began happening inside you. You stopped expecting good things. You became nervous whenever life started improving. You started fearing happiness because experience taught you that loss often followed it. Even when money came in, peace did not come with it, because part of you was already waiting for the next problem to appear. and that silent anxiety has been exhausting your soul. I know the fear you feel when an unexpected expense suddenly appears. I know the heaviness that enters your chest when your income disappears faster than you planned. I know the panic that rises when responsibilities increase while resources seem to shrink. You try not to show it to others. You laugh, you continue working, you continue functioning. But inwardly, your spirit has become tired from carrying constant uncertainty. My beloved child, repeated disappointment changes people quietly. Not all wounds bleed openly. Some wounds slowly teach a person to stop dreaming. Some wounds slowly convince a person that breakthrough belongs to others, but not to them. That is why you began calling yourself unlucky. But listen carefully now. You are not only fighting circumstances, you're no one. You are fighting unseen resistance. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Ephesians 6:12. This does not mean every hardship is punishment, and it does not mean I abandoned you. It means there are battles happening around your life that your natural eyes cannot fully see, because the enemy understands something about your future that you have not fully realized yet. There is blessing attached to your life. There is restoration attached to your name. There is provision prepared for your future. And because of that, resistance has tried to wear you down before you arrive there. The enemy does not always attack through sudden destruction. Sometimes it attacks through exhaustion, through delays, through repeated setbacks, through constant financial pressure that slowly drains hope from the heart. My child, there have been moments when you came dangerously close to giving up completely, not because you stopped believing in me, but because you became emotionally tired of hurting. You grew weary of trying, weary of waiting, weary of rebuilding, weary of watching others move ahead while you silently struggled to survive another month. I saw every hidden tear. I saw the moments you opened bills with fear already in your chest. I saw you calculating numbers over and over, hoping something would somehow change. I saw you avoiding certain phone calls because you already knew more pressure was coming. I saw the shame you felt when finances made you feel behind in life. And slowly, you began comparing yourself to everyone around you. You wondered why some people seem to attract opportunity effortlessly, while your path always feels blocked. You wondered why others recover quickly, while your recovery takes so long. You wondered why blessings appear easy for others, but difficult for you. But what you do not see is that many battles happen in silence. There are invisible pressures trying to convince you that your future will never change, trying to make you settle into hopelessness, trying to make you believe lack is permanent, because hopeless people stop preparing for miracles. That is why this attack has targeted your mind so heavily. Notice how fear always grows louder right before new opportunities appear. Notice how discouragement rises the moment you begin hoping again. Notice how exhaustion intensifies whenever breakthrough feels near. This is not random. There is resistance around your peace. And one of the enemy's greatest strategies is repetition. Repeated disappointment, repeated delays, repeated financial pressure, repeated emotional exhaustion. Because repetition creates agreement. If disappointment happens enough times, people begin expecting it. If struggle repeats long enough, people begin identifying with it. If doors keep closing, people eventually stop knocking. And that is exactly what darkness hoped would happen to you. It wanted your heart to become so tired that you would stop believing you were worthy of abundance. It wanted you to accept survival as your permanent destiny. It wanted you to stop praying boldly, stop dreaming boldly, stop expecting restoration. But my beloved child, I never called you to live trapped in fear. I never designed your heart to carry constant anxiety about provision. I never wanted you waking every morning already emotionally exhausted by financial worry. You were created for peace. You were created for purpose. You were created to walk with confidence in my care. But there is something important you must understand now. The battle is not only external, it has also been internal, because after enough disappointment, the greatest warfare becomes the thoughts you repeat to yourself. What if nothing changes? What if I fail again? What if I never escape this cycle? What if I work hard forever and still struggle? Those thoughts quietly become chains around the mind. And once fear controls expectation, even blessings become difficult to receive. My child, I know you have become cautious with hope. You no longer allow yourself to become too excited because you fear disappointment waiting around the corner. You protect your heart by expecting less. But that is not how I created you to live. I did not create you merely to survive crisis after crisis. I created you to experience my faithfulness even in uncertain seasons. And hear me clearly now. Your repeated setbacks are not proof that you are forgotten. The delays are not proof that your future is cursed. The struggle is not proof that you were abandoned. There is something larger happening beneath the surface. Something has been fighting your peace long before you recognized it. But stay with me, because the next part will begin uncovering why this invisible cycle has followed you for so long, and why your exhaustion may be connected to something deeper than bad luck. You are closer to understanding the truth than you realize, and once truth enters the light, the chains attached to confusion begin to lose their power. My beloved child, listen to me carefully now. It was not the first disappointment that nearly broke you. It was not one failed opportunity, not one unpaid bill, not one difficult season. It was the waiting, the long, silent, exhausting waiting. Because when pain continues for too long without visible change, something begins happening deep inside the human heart. Not always outwardly, not where people can easily see it, but quietly, internally, slowly. Hope begins to weaken, faith begins to grow tired, and little by little, the expectation for good things starts disappearing. I know you still pray, I know you still try to believe, but your heart no longer expects breakthrough the same way it once did. You have become cautious with hope. You no longer celebrate too early because disappointment taught you to protect yourself emotionally. You no longer trust good news immediately because you fear it may vanish again. You no longer allow yourself to dream freely because every delayed answer left another scar inside your spirit. And this invisible weariness has become heavier than the financial struggle itself, because lack affects the body, but prolonged delay affects the soul. My child, I know how tired you have become from carrying uncertainty every single day. The pressure of not knowing how things will work out. The pressure of trying to remain strong for others while silently feeling overwhelmed yourself. The pressure of acting calm while your mind constantly calculates problems, responsibilities, debts, and deadlines. You wake up tired, you go to sleep worried, and even during moments of rest, your thoughts continue running. I saw every moment of silent exhaustion. I saw the nights when you stared into darkness, unable to relax, because your mind would not stop thinking about money. I saw the fear you carried every time another unexpected expense appeared. I saw how discouragement entered your heart each time another opportunity failed after giving you hope. At first, you kept fighting with confidence. You believed things would turn around quickly. You believed the breakthrough was near. But when weeks became months and months became years, something deeper began wearing down inside you. Not your intelligence, not your effort, your expectation. And that is exactly what the enemy wanted, because listen carefully now. The enemy does not need to destroy you, only make you stop expecting. Stay with me, because this truth explains why spiritual exhaustion feels so dangerous. The enemy understands that a hopeful heart is powerful. A person who still believes can continue moving forward. A person who still expects breakthrough can continue preparing for blessing. A person who still trusts me can survive difficult seasons. So darkness tries to attack expectation itself, not always through catastrophe, sometimes through delay, long delay, repeated delay, silent delay. The kind of delay that slowly whispers, nothing will ever change. You will always struggle. Why keep hoping? Why keep praying? Why keep trying? And over time, those whispers become emotional exhaustion. My beloved child, there were moments when you did not even realize your faith was weakening because you still looked functional outwardly. You still went to work, still smiled politely, still handled responsibilities, still prayed occasionally. But inwardly, your expectation had started fading. You no longer looked ahead with excitement. You looked ahead with survival mentality. You stopped asking for abundance and started merely asking for relief. You stopped dreaming boldly and started praying just to make it through another month. You stopped imagining overflow because peace itself already felt impossible to reach. And my heart grieved watching your spirit become so tired, because I never intended for fear to become your permanent atmosphere. The righteous shall live by faith. Hebrews 10:38. Faith is not merely believing I exist. Faith is continuing to expect my goodness even while circumstances remain unclear. And that is where the battle has become intense for you, not because you completely lost faith, but because weariness has slowly weakened your ability to expect good things again. My child, repeated disappointment creates emotional scars. After enough setbacks, people begin assuming loss before blessings even arrive. After enough delays, people become suspicious of hope itself. After enough financial pressure, people start believing struggle is simply their identity. That is why your exhaustion feels invisible to others. People see your routine, but they do not see the emotional battle inside your thoughts every single day. They do not see how tired you are of rebuilding. They do not see how difficult it has become to stay positive. They do not see how many times you secretly asked yourself, how much longer can I carry this? And sometimes you even felt ashamed for feeling this tired. But hear me clearly now. I am not disappointed in your exhaustion. I understand the weight you have been carrying. I understand how financial stress slowly steals joy from simple moments, how constant worry drains energy from the mind, how repeated setbacks make even small responsibilities feel overwhelming. And yet, despite everything, you are still here, still listening, still searching, still holding on to even the smallest fragment of hope. That matters more than you realize. Because the enemy expected you to quit emotionally by now. It expected bitterness to consume your heart. It expected disappointment to silence your prayers. It expected fear to completely bury your expectation. But my child, your story is not over. The delay has been long, yes. The battle has been exhausting, yes. But I have not abandoned you inside it. Even now, while you feel weary, I am still preserving your future. You may think nothing has been moving, but there are things happening beneath the surface that you cannot yet see. Doors I protected you from, people I removed quietly, traps I prevented, lessons I needed your spirit to learn before the blessing arrived. Because some blessings require a stronger version of you to carry them safely. And though you feel delayed, you are also being prepared. Prepared emotionally, prepared spiritually, prepared mentally. I know you wanted immediate answers. I know you wanted relief faster. I know you wanted peace sooner. But there are things I am protecting you from that. You still do not fully understand. Stay with me now, because the next part will begin uncovering why your breakthrough has felt suspended for so long, and why what seemed like silence may actually have been protection all along. But before we continue, if you are still standing after everything you have survived, if you are tired but refusing to completely give up, if something inside you still wants to believe that your season can change, comment, "I will not give up," and subscribe so you do not miss what God is revealing next. Because what comes next may finally explain the hidden reason your life has felt stuck between promise and delay for so long. My beloved child, I know how confusing this season has felt for you. You prayed, you believed, you waited, And yet the miracle still seems suspended somewhere between heaven and earth. Close enough to feel, but never close enough to fully touch. You keep wondering why the breakthrough has not fully arrived. Why the financial relief you prayed for still feels delayed. Why the door almost opens, then suddenly pauses again. And because nothing changes quickly, your mind begins asking dangerous questions. Did God forget me? Am I doing something wrong? Why does heaven feel silent? Why do I keep praying if nothing moves? My child, I have heard every one of those questions. I know there were moments when disappointment became so heavy that you struggled to pray with confidence anymore. You still spoke to me, but your heart no longer expected immediate answers. You prayed while secretly preparing yourself for another delay, and slowly silence began feeling like rejection. But hear me carefully now. Silence is not abandonment. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean I stopped working. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. Isaiah 41:10. Even in the silence, I was with you. Even during the delay, I was protecting you. Even while you cried, wondering where I was standing closer than you realized. My beloved child, what feels like delay may actually be protection. Stay with me now, because this truth is deeper than you understand. You keep focusing on the doors that did not open, but you cannot see the disasters hidden behind some of those doors. You keep grieving the opportunities that disappeared, but you do not know how much pain I prevented by removing them from your path. Some people you wanted to trust would have wounded you deeply later. Some financial opportunities that looked promising would have trapped you in stress, manipulation, and regret. Some fast blessings would have produced future destruction your heart was not ready to carry. But because you only see the present moment, delay feels painful. You wanted immediate relief, immediate provision, immediate answers, and I understand why. Because financial pressure creates emotional panic. When bills rise, when responsibilities multiply, when your future feels uncertain, the human heart naturally cries out for immediate rescue. I saw those moments. I saw you praying desperately for breakthrough while secretly fearing time was running out. I saw you asking me for help while your thoughts raced with anxiety. I saw how exhausted you became from trying to hold everything together emotionally. My child, prolonged uncertainty is heavy on the soul, especially when you feel trapped between faith and fear. One part of you still believes I can move suddenly. Another part fears disappointment because you have waited so long already, and this inner tension has been exhausting you quietly. You wake up thinking about money. You fall asleep thinking about money. You try to rest, but your mind continues carrying invisible pressure. Even peaceful moments feel interrupted by hidden worry, because lack does not only affect finances, it affects emotional safety. I know how badly you desire stability. Not luxury, not pride, not endless riches, just peace. Just the ability to breathe without fear constantly sitting on your chest. Just the ability to stop worrying every single day about survival. Just the ability to feel safe again. And my child, I care about that pain more than you realize. But there are moments when I delay certain things because your future matters more to me than your temporary comfort. You see one season, I see the entire road ahead. You ask for immediate relief. But I see who will enter your life next year. I see the traps hidden behind rushed decisions. I see the emotional immaturity that certain blessings could magnify if received too early. That is why some miracles appear suspended. Not because I enjoy watching you suffer, not because I ignored your tears, not because your prayers lacked value, but because timing matters more than you understand. My beloved, there are blessings powerful enough to change the course of your entire future. And when something carries that much weight, preparation becomes necessary. A rushed blessing can become a burden. A premature opportunity can become destruction. And sudden wealth without healing can create even deeper pain. You think you are waiting only for money, but I am preparing your spirit to carry what comes after the breakthrough. Because many people pray for abundance, yet are emotionally destroyed once it arrives. They lose peace, lose wisdom, lose humility, lose themselves. But I do not want blessing to become another source of pain in your life. So while you are asking me to move faster, I am also strengthening the parts of you that will protect your future later. Stay with me, because this next truth matters deeply. Some delays are not punishment, they are positioning. There are things shifting behind the scenes right now that you cannot yet see. Relationships being rearranged, wrong people being removed quietly, dangerous paths being closed, future opportunities being aligned at the proper time. And while heaven works silently, your human eyes only see stillness. That is why you assumed nothing was happening. But my child, silence does not mean inactivity. Seeds grow underground long before fruit appears above the surface. Preparation happens invisibly before manifestation arrives publicly. And many times, the greatest movements happen in hidden places first. I know you became discouraged because your prayers did not produce instant visible change. I know you wondered why others seemed to move ahead while your life felt paused. I know you questioned why your breakthrough remained suspended while your exhaustion kept increasing. But hear me carefully now. Your delay is not proof that I rejected you. The closed doors are not proof that your future disappeared, and the silence is not proof that heaven forgot your name. There are moments when I intentionally slow your steps, because I love you too much to let you enter the wrong season too early. You call it delay, but sometimes I call it mercy. You call it silence, but sometimes I call it protection. You call it disappointment, but sometimes I call it redirection. My beloved child, if I had given you everything when you first asked for it, you would not yet understand how much danger I quietly protected you from. One day you will look back and realize some unanswered prayers were actually acts of love. And when that understanding finally reaches your heart, your faith will stop depending only on visible movement, because you will begin trusting that even when heaven feels quiet, I am still working for your good. But the deeper truth is even more shocking, because what has been delaying your breakthrough may not only involve circumstances around you, but invisible patterns connected to battles that started long before you even recognized them. Part 5. My beloved child. There is something deeper I need you to understand now. For a long time, you believed all your struggles started with you. You blamed yourself for every delay, every financial setback, every broken opportunity, every failed relationship, every season where success almost arrived, then suddenly disappeared again. You carried the burden as though everything was your fault. But what if the battle began long before you were born? Stay with me carefully now, because this next truth may explain patterns that have silently followed your family for generations. There are wounds that do not begin with one person. There are cycles that quietly move through bloodlines unnoticed. Cycles of fear, cycles of lack, cycles of emotional pain, cycles of almost reaching breakthrough, but never fully stepping into it. And many people spend their entire lives fighting battles they never realize were repeating long before them. My child, look closely at your family story. How many people worked hard yet remained trapped financially? How many dreams in your bloodline were never completed? How many relationships collapsed under pressure, pride, betrayal, or emotional distance? How many people carried deep exhaustion while pretending to be strong? And perhaps the most painful pattern of all, how many times did success come close, only to suddenly disappear? The opportunity almost happened. The breakthrough almost arrived. The healing almost came. The financial stability almost appeared. But somehow, something always interrupted it. And after watching this happen enough times, your family slowly learned to expect disappointment. Dreams became smaller, faith became weaker, survival became normal. My beloved child, this is why your heart sometimes feels afraid to hope too much. because deep inside, part of you fears repeating what came before you. You watched people in your family struggle endlessly despite working hard. You watched stress destroy peace inside the home. You watched money become a source of tension, fear, arguments, and emotional exhaustion. And even if nobody spoke about it openly, those experiences left invisible marks on your heart. Now listen carefully. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. Exodus 25. This verse was never meant to convince you that you are doomed. It was meant to reveal that spiritual patterns can continue through generations unless someone rises up and breaks them. Because, my child, you inherited battles you never created. The fear was already there. The lack was already there. The emotional heaviness was already there. You stepped into a struggle that had been repeating quietly long before your own story began. And this realization explains something your heart has secretly felt for years. Why your struggle sometimes feels bigger than the present moment. Why certain fears feel deeply rooted inside you. Why anxiety around money feels stronger than logic alone can explain. Why you panic so quickly whenever financial instability appears. Why peace feels unfamiliar even during temporary success. You are not only reacting to current pressure, you are carrying the emotional memory of repeated cycles. Cycles your family normalized over time. Cycles of barely surviving. Cycles of delayed breakthrough. Cycles of building something, then losing it again. And because these patterns repeated for so long, many people in your bloodline quietly accepted them as destiny. This is just how life is. This family never gets ahead. We always struggle. Nothing good lasts long for us. But hear me carefully now. Those words were never spoken by me. I never declared permanent defeat over your bloodline. I never called your family to live trapped in fear and limitation forever. Yet darkness works through agreement. If generation after generation accepts limitation as identity, the cycle quietly strengthens itself. That is why some people in your family stopped expecting miracles long ago. They learned how to survive, but forgot how to hope. And perhaps you feel that exhaustion too, because there were moments you worked so hard only to feel as though invisible resistance kept meeting you at every step. Moments when financial pressure became so constant that peace itself started feeling impossible. Moments when you secretly wondered, why does this keep happening to us? My beloved child, you are not imagining the pattern. There are families where poverty repeats, families where addiction repeats, families where emotional brokenness repeats, families where betrayal repeats, families where almost success repeats generation after generation. And one of the cruelest cycles is this. People become so used to disappointment that they stop believing lasting breakthrough is possible. That is how invisible weariness passes through bloodlines quietly, not only financially, emotionally. The fear of trying again, the fear of dreaming again, the fear of trusting again. Because repeated failure teaches people to emotionally prepare for loss before blessing even arrives. I know you feel this battle deeply. You become nervous whenever things begin improving. Part of you waits for disaster to return. Part of you fears happiness will not last. Even when opportunities appear, anxiety quickly whispers, what if this collapses too? What if this ends like everything else? What if I get my hopes up again for nothing? My child, that fear did not begin with you alone. You inherited emotional battles you never asked for. But stay with me now, because this next truth is important. Inheritance does not mean permanence. Just because a cycle existed before you does not mean it must continue through you. You were not born merely to survive your bloodline's pain. You were chosen to confront it. And that is why your life has felt so spiritually intense, because people called to break cycles often face battles that feel unusually heavy. The resistance is stronger because your breakthrough affects more than just you. When one person heals, future generations heal differently. When one person breaks financial bondage, future generations inherit new possibilities. When one person restores faith, hope begins returning to an entire family line, and darkness fears that kind of transformation. That is why the pressure against your peace has felt relentless at times. The enemy hoped exhaustion would stop you before restoration fully arrived. It hoped delay would convince you to surrender emotionally. It hoped repeated disappointment would make you believe your family could never change. But my beloved child, hear me carefully now. You were never created to remain trapped in inherited limitation. You were chosen to become the interruption to poverty, the interruption to hopelessness, the interruption to emotional exhaustion, the interruption to almost success syndrome. And even though the battle has been painful, I have been preparing you to see what previous generations could not yet see. Because once hidden cycles are exposed to light, they begin losing their power. But the deeper truth is even more personal than you realize. Because the greatest attack against your future was never only financial, it was against your identity itself. Part 6. My beloved child, breathe for a moment and listen carefully to me now. Because after everything you have just heard, fear may have started rising inside your heart. You may be thinking, then am I trapped forever? Will my family always struggle like this? Will I always carry this heaviness? Am I doomed to repeat what came before me? No, my child. That is not the ending I wrote for you. Yes, cycles may have existed before you. Yes, pain may have traveled through generations. Yes, financial fear, emotional exhaustion, and repeated disappointment may have surrounded your bloodline for years. But hear me clearly now. Christ never destined you to stay under it. Christ has redeemed us from the curse. Galatians 3:13. You are not abandoned inside the cycle. You are not chained permanently to the suffering that came before you. And you are not required to inherit every battle that touched your family line. Stay with me now, because this next truth may completely change the way you see yourself. You are not the victim of your bloodline. You are the breaker of it. My beloved child, darkness hoped you would never discover this. It wanted you to believe struggle was your identity. It wanted you to believe financial stress would always define your future. It wanted you to accept exhaustion as normal. It wanted you to quietly surrender to limitation the same way previous generations did. But heaven never called you powerless. The very reason your spirit has fought so hard to survive, the reason you keep searching for truth, the reason you refuse to completely give up despite everything, is because something inside you was created to break what existed before you. You felt different your entire life for a reason. You questioned patterns other people accepted. You felt burdened by cycles that others learned to tolerate. You carried a strange hunger for peace, restoration, and freedom even when nobody around you understood it. That was not accidental. My child, I planted that hunger inside you because your destiny was never meant to end in bondage. I know the battle has been exhausting. I know there were moments when financial pressure made you feel trapped. Moments when anxiety about money stole your ability to enjoy life. Moments when repeated setbacks made you wonder if breakthrough would ever truly happen for you. And yet, despite everything, you are still here listening, still hoping, still searching, still fighting internally not to surrender. That matters more than you realize, because darkness expected the cycle to completely bury your faith by now. It expected bitterness to consume you. It expected hopelessness to define you. It expected your heart to grow numb after so much disappointment. But my beloved child, I have been sustaining you even in moments you thought you were falling apart. There were nights you almost collapsed emotionally, yet somehow continued moving forward. There were moments you thought your strength was gone, yet something kept carrying you. There were seasons you felt completely drained, yet your spirit still refused to die. That was not your own strength alone. I was preserving you for this moment. Because before cycles break outwardly, truth must awaken inwardly first. You must first realize that your future is not chained permanently to your past. My child, many people inherit pain and never question it. They inherit fear and call it personality. They inherit financial anxiety and call it wisdom. They inherit hopelessness and call it realism. But you were never created merely to survive inherited darkness. You were chosen to confront it. And that confrontation begins by rejecting the lie that says, "This is all your life will ever be." No, I have more for you than endless survival. I have more for you than constant financial panic. More for you than emotional exhaustion. More for you than living paycheck to paycheck, while fear quietly controls your peace. The blessing I prepared for you was never only about money. It was about restoration of peace, restoration of dignity, restoration of identity, restoration of hope. Because poverty does not only wound finances, it wounds expectation. Repeated lack teaches people to think small, to dream cautiously, to expect disappointment before breakthrough arrives. That is why I am healing your thinking before I release certain blessings fully into your hands. Because if your heart still believes fear is permanent, abundance itself can become another source of anxiety. My beloved child, some people receive financial increase but remain emotionally imprisoned. They still panic constantly, still fear losing everything, still live with hidden torment inside. But I want to free both your hands and your heart. I want peace to enter your spirit again. And this is why your process has felt deeper than simple financial struggle. I have not only been dealing with external lack, I have been confronting internal fear. The fear that nothing changes. The fear that breakthrough never lasts. The fear that your future will repeat your past. But hear me clearly now. Those fears are not prophecies. They are wounds. And wounds can heal. My beloved child, there is power in what Christ already accomplished for you. The cross was not only about eternity, it was also about freedom from the chains that destroy peace here on earth. Freedom from hopelessness, freedom from inherited despair, freedom from the emotional prison that keeps generations trapped in fear and limitation. This does not mean every battle disappears instantly, but it does mean the cycle no longer owns you. You are no longer required to agree with the darkness that surrounded previous generations. You can choose differently, believe differently, walk differently, and that decision begins now. Not when circumstances become perfect, not when money finally appears, not when every problem disappears, now. Because freedom begins in the spirit before it appears fully in the natural world. Stay with me carefully now. The enemy spent years convincing your bloodline to expect limitation, but heaven is teaching you how to expect restoration again. That is why this message found you. Because your faith needed awakening before your breakthrough fully arrives. My child, do not underestimate the significance of your survival. The fact that you are still listening means the cycle did not destroy you. The fact that you still desire peace means darkness failed to completely harden your heart. The fact that hope still flickers inside you means restoration is already beginning quietly. And though the process has been painful, I am preparing you to become evidence that generational cycles can end. Not through fear, not through panic, not through self-hatred, but through truth, healing, surrender, and faith. You are not cursed to repeat every battle you witnessed growing up. You are not permanently chained to financial struggle. You are not doomed to carry inherited hopelessness forever. You are the interruption to fear, the interruption to poverty, the interruption to emotional exhaustion, the interruption to silent suffering. And one day, future generations connected to your life will experience peace because you chose not to surrender here. Before we continue, if you believe this cycle ends with you, type Amen and share this with someone fighting silent battles nobody else understands. Because what comes next will reveal why the greatest attack against your future was never only against your finances, but against the way you see yourself. Part 7. My beloved child, there is something even deeper I need you to see now. For a long time, you believed the greatest battle in your life was financial. You thought the enemy only wanted to keep money away from you. You thought the struggle was only about bills, opportunities, debt, delay, and lack. But listen carefully now. The real attack was never against your money first. It was against your identity. Because if darkness can make you believe you are unworthy, you will eventually reject the very blessing I am trying to place into your hands. Stay with me, because this next truth changes everything. My child, the enemy understands something many people never realize. Money is not the deepest source of prosperity. Identity is. A person who believes they are valuable will walk differently, speak differently, expect differently, receive differently. But a person who secretly feels unworthy will unconsciously sabotage the very opportunities they prayed for. That is why the attack against you began inside your thoughts, long before it appeared in your finances. The enemy whispered things into your spirit for years. You are behind. You are not enough. You will never succeed. Nothing good lasts for you. You are not capable. You are too broken. You will always struggle. And after hearing those lies repeatedly through disappointment, rejection, and delay, part of your heart slowly started believing them. Not loudly, not openly, quietly. You stopped seeing yourself the way I see you. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. My beloved child, this is why your confidence has felt so fragile at times. Because repeated struggles slowly trained your mind to expect failure before success arrived. You became afraid to dream too big, afraid to hope too deeply, afraid to believe your life could truly change. Even when opportunities appeared, self-doubt followed immediately behind them. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I lose everything again? What if I am not good enough? And without realizing it, you started shrinking yourself emotionally. You became smaller in your own eyes. The enemy did not need to destroy your future completely. It only needed to convince you that you were too unworthy to step fully into it. That is why some people remain trapped even after opportunities appear. Because internal chains can reject external blessings. My child, there were moments I opened doors for you, but fear made you hesitate. Moments I sent opportunities, but insecurity made you doubt yourself. Moments favor approached your life, but past disappointment made you retreat emotionally. Not because you were weak, because your identity had been wounded. And wounded identity creates fearful decisions. I know how many times rejection affected your self-worth. The failed relationships, the unanswered messages, the interviews that never called back, the opportunities that disappeared. The moments you gave your best effort, only to feel overlooked again. Each disappointment left another invisible scar, and eventually those scars became inner labels. Unsuccessful, forgettable, always struggling, not chosen, not valuable enough. But hear me clearly now. Those labels never came from me. I never called you a failure. I never declared you worthless. I never said your future would remain trapped forever. Those accusations came from darkness, trying to separate you from the confidence necessary to receive what I prepared for you. Because self-worth affects everything: the way you speak, the way you love, the way you work, the way you receive opportunities, the way you handle money, the way you approach your future. If you secretly believe you are undeserving, you will unconsciously push blessing away the moment it approaches. That is why the enemy attacked your identity before your finances. Because once a person loses their sense of worth, they stop expecting abundance naturally. They settle emotionally for survival. My beloved child, I know how deeply this battle has affected you. You compare yourself constantly. You question your value silently. You feel behind while watching others move ahead. You wonder why success seems easier for everyone else. And little by little, insecurity begins shaping the way you see your own future. You start apologizing for your dreams, apologizing for your needs, apologizing for your existence itself. But I never created you to live ashamed of who you are. You were created in my image, created with purpose, created with dignity, created with value that does not disappear because of temporary struggle. Your financial condition was never meant to define your identity. Lack may have touched your circumstances, but it was never supposed to become your name. But darkness kept trying to merge the two together. If you struggle financially, you must be less valuable. If you failed before, you must always fail. If you are delayed, you must not be chosen. Those are lies. And the longer you believed them, the more exhausted your soul became. Because nothing crushes the human spirit faster than believing you are unworthy of better days. My beloved child, hear me carefully now. The moment you believed you were unworthy, you started rejecting the blessing yourself. Not intentionally, but emotionally. You stopped expecting good things fully. You stopped trusting open doors completely. You stopped believing peace could truly belong to you. And because of that fear, you often approached opportunities already expecting disappointment. That expectation quietly shaped your reactions, your confidence, your decisions, and your emotional posture. But I am healing that wound now. I am teaching you to see yourself differently, not through the lens of failure, not through the lens of fear, not through the lens of your past, through my eyes. Because your worth was never determined by how much money you had, never determined by how many times life disappointed you, never determined by how long your breakthrough took. You are valuable because I formed you intentionally, and the enemy fears the moment you finally believe that. Because once your identity heals, your decisions change. Your confidence changes, your expectations change, your relationships change. Your financial mindset changes, and suddenly, the chains that once controlled you begin losing power. Stay with me now, because this next truth is even deeper. The enemy did not only attack how you see yourself, it also used false labels from your past to make you afraid of stepping into the future I prepared for you. My beloved child, there are names you have carried for so long that you no longer realize how deeply they have shaped your life. Not the name written on your birth certificate, the invisible names, the labels, the silent identities formed through years of disappointment, rejection, delay, and pain. Failure, behind, weak, not enough, forgotten, unwanted, always struggling. You may not say those words aloud every day, but deep inside, part of you has slowly started believing them. And that belief has quietly shaped the way you see your future. Stay with me now, because I need you to understand something that will change the way you see yourself forever. I never called you by those labels. Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. My child, hear my voice carefully now. I did not create you to spend your life chained to the identity your pain assigned to you. Pain may describe what happened to you, but it does not define who you are. Disappointment may have touched your life, but it was never meant to become your identity. Yet this is exactly what darkness tried to do. It took temporary seasons and turned them into permanent labels inside your mind. One failure became, I am a failure. One rejection became, I am unwanted. One financial struggle became, I will always struggle. One delay became, I am behind everyone else. And over time, you stopped separating your circumstances from your identity. You no longer said, I am going through hardship. Instead, your wounded heart quietly began saying, this is just who I am. My beloved child, that lie has exhausted your spirit more than you realize. Because human beings cannot thrive while constantly believing they are less valuable than others. I know how often you compare yourself secretly. You see people succeeding faster, building faster, healing faster, advancing faster. And every comparison quietly whispers another accusation into your heart. You are too late. You missed your chance. You are not enough. But listen carefully now. Your timing was never meant to mirror someone else's journey. I see the hidden battles nobody else sees. I see the emotional weight you carried silently. I see the fear, pressure, financial stress, and invisible wounds you survived while still continuing forward. And still, you call yourself weak. My child, weak people do not survive what you survived. You endured nights of emotional exhaustion and still kept moving. You endured seasons where your heart almost collapsed under financial anxiety, and still you kept fighting internally not to surrender. Yet, because your breakthrough has taken longer than expected, you started calling yourself behind. But who told you delay means abandonment? Who told you struggle means disqualification? Who told you your current season defines your destiny? Those accusations never came from me. Darkness labels people according to their wounds, but I speak according to their purpose. That is why throughout Scripture, I often changed people's names before I changed their circumstances. Stay with me, because this next truth reveals something powerful about your own story. Abram became Abraham, not after he felt qualified, not after everything was perfect, not after he fully understood the future. I changed his identity first, because heaven speaks to destiny before circumstances catch up. Jacob became Israel. Why? Because Jacob carried the identity of struggle, fear, deception, and survival. But I refused to leave him trapped under the identity his past created. And my beloved child, I refuse to leave you there either. You are not merely the person your pain shaped. You are the person I called forth long before fear entered your life. That is why the enemy fought your identity so aggressively. Because once people believe false labels deeply enough, they stop reaching for the future prepared for them. A person who believes they are unworthy will fear opportunities. A person who believes they are behind will rush out of panic. A person who believes they are weak will shrink away from responsibility. A person who believes they are rejected will sabotage healthy relationships before trust can grow. Identity shapes behavior. That is why darkness attacked your self-worth before your breakthrough. It wanted you to reject yourself before blessing could fully reach you. And slowly, you started doing exactly that. You became afraid to stand out, afraid to believe in yourself, afraid to expect abundance, afraid to think your future could truly become different. Even when good things approached your life, fear whispered, "This will not last. You do not deserve this. Something will go wrong again." My child, those are not the thoughts of someone who lacks intelligence. Those are the thoughts of someone whose identity has been wounded repeatedly, and wounds untreated become inner prisons. But I am opening those prison doors now, because your future cannot fully bloom while your identity remains chained to your past. You cannot carry the labels of failure while stepping into the life I prepared for you. You cannot continue calling yourself worthless while asking me for blessing at the same time. Not because I reject you, but because the human heart struggles to receive what it secretly believes it does not deserve. That is why healing your identity matters deeply. I need you to begin seeing yourself through my eyes again, not through trauma, not through delay, not through comparison, not through financial struggle, through truth. You are not forgotten, not behind, not disqualified, not abandoned. You are still chosen. And even now, despite all the fear and exhaustion, I am still writing your story. My beloved child, there are names heaven speaks over you that darkness tried to silence. Healed, restored, chosen, protected, provided for, loved, called, renewed. And once those truths begin taking root inside your heart, everything starts changing. Your posture changes, your expectations change, your confidence changes, your relationships change. Even the way you approach money and opportunity begins changing. because identity always shapes destiny. That is why I am dismantling every false label attached to your spirit. The labels from childhood, the labels from failure, the labels from rejection, the labels created by years of delay and disappointment. Those names are breaking off you now, because you cannot step fully into restoration while continuing to introduce yourself internally as broken. Stay with me carefully now, because the next truth is even deeper. Some of the closed doors and painful delays you hated most were not punishments at all. They were protecting you from becoming trapped in the wrong version of your future. My beloved child, there are some doors you still cry about in secret, doors you begged me to open, doors you thought would finally solve your financial stress, doors you believed would bring peace, success, love, or stability into your life. And when those doors closed, it broke your heart. You thought I rejected you. You thought heaven ignored your prayers. You thought you were being punished. You thought you were not worthy enough to receive the blessing you longed for. But listen to me carefully now. Not every closed door was rejection. Some doors closed because I was protecting you from destruction you could not yet see. Stay with me, because this truth is going to heal something deep inside your spirit. My child, I know how painful it felt watching opportunities disappear. The job you desperately wanted, the relationship you prayed would last, the financial opportunity you thought would finally rescue you from pressure, the business idea that seemed perfect at first, then suddenly collapsed. You asked me why. You cried over those closed doors. You replayed conversations in your mind, wondering what you did wrong. You blamed yourself for not being smarter, stronger, faster, or more prepared. But what if the closed door was mercy? The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. Psalm 121:7. You only saw the opportunity. I saw the hidden trap attached to it. You saw temporary relief. I saw future bondage. You saw quick success. I saw pride slowly waiting behind it. You saw people who looked supportive. I saw fake hearts hiding behind flattering words. My beloved child, there are people who entered your life smiling while secretly carrying jealousy, manipulation, and selfish intentions. Had I allowed certain doors to remain open, those people would have wounded you far more deeply later. Some relationships were removed because they would have destroyed your peace. Some business connections collapsed because dishonesty surrounded them quietly. Some financial opportunities disappeared because success gained the wrong way would have poisoned your future. But because you only saw the loss, you mistook protection for rejection, and that misunderstanding exhausted your heart. You kept asking, why does everything good leave? Why do opportunities disappear? Why does success feel so close, then vanish? My beloved child, not everything that looks like blessing truly carries peace. Some doors shine brightly at first, but lead into hidden darkness later. That is why I slowed certain things down, not because I wanted to frustrate you, because I love you too much to hand you a blessing that would eventually destroy you. Stay with me now, because this next truth explains more than you realize. Some prayers were delayed because the old version of you could not survive the blessing. Listen carefully, you asked for increase, but increase magnifies whatever already exists inside the heart. If fear remains unhealed, money increases anxiety. If insecurity remains unhealed, success increases pride or self-destruction. If wounds remain unresolved, relationships become unstable under pressure. My child, I know you wanted immediate breakthrough. I know you became tired of financial stress, tired of surviving, tired of rebuilding, tired of wondering when peace would finally come. But there were parts of you still healing, parts of you still learning wisdom, still learning discernment, still learning emotional stability, still learning how to carry blessing without losing yourself. Because abundance without healing can destroy people quietly. You have seen it happen before. People receive success, then lose peace. Receive money, then lose humility. Receive opportunity, then destroy relationships. Receive influence, then become consumed by pride. But I do not want your breakthrough to become another source of pain. That is why I have been shaping your character while you were waiting. The waiting was not wasted. Even the silence had purpose. My beloved child, you thought nothing was happening during delay, but hidden transformation was taking place inside you. Your discernment became stronger. Your dependence on me became deeper. Your heart became softer. Your wisdom became sharper. You stopped idolizing temporary things the way you once did. You started valuing peace more than appearances. You started understanding that not every fast opportunity comes from me. And though the process hurt deeply, it was preparing you for the future you prayed for. Because if I gave you certain blessings too early, the old version of you would have mishandled them. Not because you were evil, because you were still wounded. And wounded people often confuse blessing with validation. They chase success trying to heal insecurity. They chase money trying to heal fear. They chase relationships trying to heal loneliness. But external things can never permanently heal internal wounds. That is why I have been healing your heart while preparing your future simultaneously. My beloved child, some delays protected your soul more than your finances. There were seasons where you felt abandoned because life slowed down unexpectedly. But had things accelerated too quickly, you would have entered environments that would have consumed your peace entirely. Some doors closed because pride was waiting behind them. Some doors closed because manipulation surrounded them. Some doors closed because your emotional foundation was not yet stable enough for the pressure attached to success. And one day, you will thank me for some of the prayers I refused to answer immediately, because you will finally see what I protected you from. Stay with me carefully now. I know you still carry pain from certain closed doors, pain from opportunities lost, pain from relationships that failed, pain from dreams that collapsed suddenly after giving you hope. And sometimes you still wonder if those losses mean you failed somehow. But hear me clearly now. A closed door does not mean your destiny closed. A delayed season does not mean your blessing disappeared. And temporary silence does not mean I stopped working. There are moments when I close one path because another path holds greater peace for your future. But the human heart struggles to trust what it cannot yet see. That is why faith matters deeply during delay. Faith is not only believing when doors open. Faith is trusting me even when doors close. My child, the enemy wanted every disappointment to convince you that your future was shrinking. But what if those closed doors were actually redirecting you toward something safer, stronger, and far more aligned with your destiny? What if delay protected your future marriage? Protected your peace? Protected your finances? Protected your calling? You saw interruption. I saw preservation. And though your heart grew weary waiting, I never stopped guiding you. Even now, while you still feel uncertain at times, I am aligning things behind the scenes you cannot yet fully understand. People are being moved. Paths are being rearranged. Future opportunities are forming quietly. And when the right doors finally open, they will not carry the same confusion, manipulation, and instability attached to the old ones, because what comes from me carries peace with it. Before we continue, if you trust my timing, even while waiting, comment, "God prepare me," and stay until the end, because the final warning is critical. Because the next truth will reveal why money itself was never the greatest danger to your future, but what blessing can secretly do to the human heart after it finally arrives. Part 10. My beloved child, there is something I need you to understand before the blessing fully arrives. For so long, you believed money itself was the answer. You thought if financial pressure finally disappeared, peace would automatically come with it. You thought if abundance entered your life, the fear, exhaustion, and anxiety would finally leave too. And yes, provision matters. I know how deeply financial stress has wounded your heart. I know how tiring it is to constantly think about survival, bills, responsibilities, and uncertainty. But listen carefully now. Financial blessing was never the final goal. Transformation was. Stay with me, because this truth will explain why your process has taken longer than you expected. My child, money can solve certain external problem, but it cannot heal internal emptiness. It cannot heal insecurity. It cannot heal fear. It cannot heal wounded identity. It cannot heal the exhaustion buried deep inside the soul. That is why some people become wealthier, yet remain emotionally tormented. They have money but no peace, success but no rest, influence but no joy. Because blessing without healing becomes dangerous. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37:4. Notice carefully what this means. I do not only release blessings into your hands, I transform your heart while preparing you to receive them. Because if your inner world remains broken, external increase can magnify the damage instead of healing it. My beloved child, money without healing would have destroyed you. I know that truth may surprise you, because during your hardest financial seasons, all you could think about was escape, relief, stability, breathing room. You prayed, Lord, just help me survive. Just open one door. Just let the pressure stop. And I heard every prayer, but while you were asking for provision, I was also protecting your future. Because there were seasons when your heart was still carrying deep fear, still carrying insecurity, still carrying wounds from rejection and lack. Had sudden abundance arrived too early, it would not have healed those wounds. It would have amplified them. Stay with me now, because this next truth is important. A wounded heart with money often becomes even more lost. Fear becomes greed. Insecurity becomes pride. Loneliness becomes unhealthy attachment. Pain becomes reckless behavior. That is why I care more about your character than temporary comfort. Not because I want you to suffer, because I want the blessing to remain healthy inside your life once it arrives. My child, there are things I have been teaching you during this waiting season that money alone could never teach. Stewardship, discernment, patience, humility, dependence on me. Those things are building spiritual authority inside you, and spiritual authority matters more than temporary wealth. Because money without wisdom disappears quickly. Success without maturity destroys people quietly. Influence without healing corrupts the heart slowly. But when character becomes strong, blessing becomes sustainable. My beloved child, I know you became frustrated watching others succeed faster than you. You wondered why some people seemed to rise overnight, while your process remained slow and painful. But you do not see the hidden fractures inside many people's lives. Some gained wealth, but lost peace. Some gained influence, but lost their families. Some gained success, but lost themselves. I never wanted that future for you. That is why your process required deeper healing first. Because what I am building in you is not temporary survival. It is stability. You are learning how to remain grounded during uncertainty. Learning how to hear my voice instead of panic. Learning how to manage pressure without collapsing emotionally. Those lessons matter deeply for your future. My child, there were seasons where lack humbled you. And though the process hurt, it protected your spirit from becoming consumed by pride. Because pride quietly destroys discernment. Pride makes people believe they no longer need wisdom, no longer need guidance, no longer need me. And one of the enemy's greatest traps is allowing people to receive blessing before their character is ready to carry it. That is why some people destroy themselves after breakthrough, not because blessing is evil, because their inner foundation remained unstable. But I am strengthening your foundation now. Stay with me carefully. I know you felt ashamed during seasons of lack, ashamed you could not provide more, ashamed you felt behind. Ashamed your life did not look the way you imagined by now. But some of those painful seasons created compassion inside you. You learned how to understand people who struggle. You learned humility. You learned empathy. You learned dependence on grace instead of ego. And those qualities carry eternal value. Because, my child, I am not merely trying to make you rich. I am preparing you to become trustworthy with what I place into your hands. Trustworthy emotionally, trustworthy spiritually, trustworthy financially. That is what stewardship means. Not merely possessing blessing, but carrying it wisely. Many people ask me for increase while their hearts remain ruled by fear, comparison, jealousy, or pride. But if I increased everything immediately without transformation, those hidden weaknesses would grow too. That is why delay often protects the soul. The waiting season reveals what still needs healing before elevation arrives. And though the process exhausted you at times, it has also been refining you. My beloved child, you are becoming stronger than you realize. Not only financially, internally, your discernment has grown. Your dependence on me has deepened. Your understanding of people has matured. You no longer chase every opportunity blindly. You no longer confuse appearance with peace the same way you once did. That is growth. That is transformation. And transformation creates the kind of strength capable of sustaining blessing without being destroyed by it. Because hear me clearly now, money is a tool, not an identity. If your identity depends on money, fear will always control your peace. But when your identity rests securely in me, you can carry both abundance and hardship without losing yourself. That is spiritual maturity, and I am building that maturity inside you now. My child, one day you will look back at this season differently. You will realize the waiting was not empty. The delays were not meaningless. The process was not punishment. I was preparing your hands while healing your heart, preparing your future while strengthening your spirit. Because the blessing I have for you is not only about temporary relief, it is about establishing stability, wisdom, peace, and authority that future storms cannot easily destroy. Stay with me now, because the next truth is one of the most dangerous parts of this entire journey. Many people survive the struggle, but fall after the blessing finally arrives. My beloved child, there is something very important I must warn you about before the blessing fully arrives. You have spent so much time praying for breakthrough, praying for relief, praying for financial stability, that you naturally assume the hardest season is the season of lack. You believe the greatest danger is poverty. The greatest danger is delay. The greatest danger is surviving while exhausted. But listen carefully now. Sometimes the most dangerous moment comes after the blessing arrives. Stay with me, because this next warning may protect your future. My child, many people remain close to me while they are desperate. When they are struggling financially, they pray constantly. When they feel weak, they seek my presence daily. When life feels uncertain, they depend on me deeply. Pain often keeps the human heart aware of its need for me. But something subtle can happen once success finally enters a person's life. Slowly, quietly, dependence begins fading. The heart becomes distracted. Not intentionally at first, just gradually. The same person who once cried out desperately for help begins relying more on money than on faith. The same person who once sought my voice daily becomes consumed by comfort, achievement, and control. And before they realize it, the blessing becomes more important than the one who sent it. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth. Deuteronomy 8:18. My beloved child, hear me carefully now. Many people prayed for miracles, then forgot the one who sent them. That is why I have been preparing your heart so deeply before increase arrives. Because prosperity tests the soul differently than suffering does. Lack reveals desperation, but abundance reveals character. Stay with me now, because this truth is deeper than you realize. When people struggle financially, they usually remain aware of their limitations. They pray more carefully, depend more deeply, stay humble more naturally. But after blessing enters their lives, hidden weaknesses often rise to the surface. Pride begins whispering, "You no longer need guidance." Comfort whispers, "You can relax spiritually now." Success whispers, "You achieved this by your own strength." And slowly, spiritual sensitivity weakens. My child, I never wanted blessing to separate you from me. I wanted blessing to deepen your gratitude, not replace your dependence. But many people lose themselves after breakthrough, not because blessing is evil, because unhealed hearts often attach identity to success. And once identity becomes attached to wealth, position, or achievement, fear quietly returns again. Fear of losing status, fear of losing money, fear of losing control. So even after receiving the miracle they prayed for, peace still remains fragile. That is why I care more about your inner foundation than temporary increase. Because I do not only want to bless your hands, I want to preserve your soul. My beloved child, I know you think money would solve most of your worries right now. And yes, certain pressures would become lighter. But if the heart is not anchored properly, blessing can create entirely new forms of bondage. You have seen this happen before. People who once seemed humble suddenly become prideful after success. People who once depended on me begin trusting only themselves. People who once valued relationships begin valuing appearances more. And little by little, they drift away emotionally from the very source of their blessing. That is one of the enemy's most subtle traps. Not stopping blessing entirely, but allowing blessing to slowly distract people from their purpose. Stay with me carefully now, because I need you to understand something important about your waiting season. Part of the reason your process has taken longer is because I wanted your roots to grow deeper than your future success. Trees with shallow roots cannot survive strong storms. And my child, the blessing I prepared for you carries weight, responsibility, influence, opportunity. And if your inner life is not stable before increase arrives, external success can collapse everything internally. That is why I allowed certain delays to mature you. The waiting taught you humility. The struggle taught you compassion. The uncertainty taught you dependence on me. Those lessons matter more than you realize. Because one day when increase finally enters your life, those lessons will protect you from becoming someone your wounded past once feared. My beloved child, there are people who prayed for abundance but were emotionally destroyed by it later. Not because they were evil, because success amplified what was already unresolved inside them. Insecurity became arrogance, fear became control, loneliness became addiction, pride became isolation, and slowly, the blessing turned into another prison. That is why I am healing your heart before enlarging your territory. Because I do not want your future to look successful publicly while your soul quietly falls apart privately. I want peace to remain inside you even after breakthrough comes. I want you to carry blessing without losing humility. Carry influence without losing compassion. Carry increase without losing wisdom. That is spiritual authority. And spiritual authority is far more valuable than temporary wealth. Stay with me now. I know there were seasons where you felt frustrated watching your progress move slowly. But what you called delay, heaven often called preparation. I was strengthening your discernment, teaching you stewardship, revealing hidden motives inside your own heart. Because money exposes people. It reveals what already lives inside them. If greed exists, money magnifies greed. If insecurity exists, money magnifies insecurity. If peace exists, money becomes a tool instead of an idol. That is why transformation had to happen first. My beloved child, never allow blessing to replace intimacy with me. Never become so focused on provision that you forget the provider. Never become so obsessed with success that your soul slowly grows empty again. Because the greatest blessing I can give you is not money alone. It is peace while carrying it. Peace that remains during increase. Peace that remains during success. Peace that remains when opportunities multiply. That kind of peace only comes from remaining connected to me. And hear me carefully now. I am not delaying your future to punish you. I am protecting your future from collapse. The enemy wanted your blessing to arrive before your character was ready. But I refused to let your destiny destroy you. That is love, even when it felt frustrating, even when it felt confusing, even when it felt unfair. My child, one day you will understand why some seasons required deeper refinement before elevation arrived. And when that day comes, you will carry blessing differently than before, not with pride, with gratitude, not with fear, with wisdom, not with desperation, with peace. Stay with me carefully now, because the next truth is even more powerful. You are not only being prepared to receive blessing for yourself, you are being prepared to change the future of generations after you. My beloved child, there is something far greater happening in your life than you realize. You thought this battle was only about you, your stress, your finances, your exhaustion, your delayed breakthrough, your emotional wounds. But listen carefully now. Your story was never meant to end with only your personal survival. You were chosen to change your entire generation. Stay with me, because this next truth explains why your journey has felt heavier than you expected. My child, there are some people born into a family line simply to continue what already exists. But there are others chosen to interrupt it, chosen to break patterns, chosen to heal wounds, chosen to restore what previous generations lost, chosen to carry light into places where fear, lack, and emotional pain ruled for years. And whether you fully understand it yet or not, you are one of those people. That is why your spirit has always felt different. You could never fully settle into the cycles around you. Even when exhaustion tempted you to give up, something inside you kept searching for more, kept reaching for healing, kept longing for peace, kept believing your family's story did not have to end in pain. That hunger was not accidental. Heaven planted it inside you intentionally. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24:15. My beloved child, generational healing always begins with one person willing to rise differently, one person willing to confront inherited fear, one person willing to stop agreeing with hopelessness, one person willing to believe restoration is possible even after years of disappointment. And that person is often the one who feels the battle most intensely. Stay with me carefully now. Have you ever wondered why your emotional burdens sometimes felt unusually heavy? Why your financial struggles seemed connected to something deeper than simple bad luck? Why your spirit became exhausted in ways difficult to explain? It is because generational battles carry generational weight. When someone is called to break cycles, resistance often increases. The enemy does not fear repetition, it fears interruption. And your life carries the potential to interrupt patterns that have existed for decades. Patterns of fear, patterns of poverty, patterns of emotional distance, patterns of hopelessness, patterns of surviving without peace. That is why darkness tried so hard to exhaust you before you discovered who you truly are. Because once a cycle breaker awakens, entire futures begin changing. My beloved child, your healing is not only about you. The peace you learn now will affect future generations. The wisdom you develop now will affect future generations. The emotional healing happening inside you now will affect future generations. One healed heart can change an entire bloodline. That is why your process has been so deep. I was never only trying to rescue you from temporary financial stress. I was rewriting legacy. Stay with me now, because this next truth matters deeply. Heaven did not choose you by accident. You were not randomly born into your family, not randomly placed inside these struggles, not randomly shaped through these painful seasons. Even the battles that nearly broke you became part of the preparation shaping your spirit. Because people called to carry healing often understand pain intimately first. You know what emotional exhaustion feels like. You know what financial anxiety feels like. You know what it feels like to silently carry pressure while trying to appear strong outwardly. And because you understand suffering deeply, compassion has grown inside you differently. That compassion matters. Because future generations connected to you will not only inherit money or opportunities from your life, they will inherit emotional patterns too. And my child, I am healing those patterns now. I am teaching you how to think differently, respond differently, believe differently, love differently. Because healing becomes legacy when it is sustained long enough. My beloved child, you have spent years thinking you were simply struggling to survive, but heaven has been preparing you to become a turning point. The turning point where fear loses authority. The turning point where emotional silence finally breaks. The turning point where faith rises again after generations of disappointment. And though the process has exhausted you at times, you are becoming stronger than you realize. Not only financially, spiritually, emotionally, you are learning discernment previous generations never learned. Learning healing previous generations never accessed. Learning dependence on me in ways that will stabilize your future differently. That matters deeply, because legacy is not only about what you leave behind materially, it is about what atmosphere follows your life. Fear or peace, wisdom or confusion, healing or pain, faith or hopelessness. And my beloved child, I am building something through you that will outlive you. Stay with me carefully now. There were moments you almost gave up completely. Moments where exhaustion whispered, nothing will ever change. Moments where financial pressure became so heavy that your future felt impossible to imagine. But even in those moments, I never released my hand from your life, because your assignment is larger than your current season. The enemy wanted you trapped emotionally before you ever recognized your authority. It wanted you so consumed by survival that you never realized you were chosen to shift the spiritual atmosphere of your family line. But now truth is awakening inside you. You are beginning to understand that your life carries purpose beyond temporary struggle. My child, one day the people connected to your future will experience peace because you chose not to surrender here. Children will think differently because of your healing. Relationships will become healthier because of your growth. Financial wisdom will increase because you learned stewardship through painful seasons. Your obedience today becomes protection for tomorrow's generations. That is legacy. And heaven sees your process differently than you do. You see delay, heaven sees preparation. You see exhaustion, heaven sees endurance being formed. You see struggle, heaven sees a future cycle breaker being refined. My beloved child, do not underestimate what I am building inside you right now. The enemy wanted your story to become another repetition of inherited pain. But I called you to become interruption. Interruption to fear, interruption to limitation, interruption to emotional bondage, interruption to silent suffering. And though your process felt lonely at times, you were never walking alone. I have been strengthening you quietly for this assignment, because when one person in a bloodline heals deeply, generations after them inherit different possibilities. Stay with me now, because the final truth is approaching. And what I am about to reveal next will show you why every battle, every delay, every painful season was never proof that you were forgotten. It was proof that your destiny carried extraordinary value. My beloved child, after everything you have survived, after every silent battle, every delay, every sleepless night, every moment you wondered if your life would ever truly change, I need you to hear me clearly now. The shift has already begun. Even if you cannot fully see it yet, even if circumstances still look incomplete, even if your breakthrough has not fully appeared in the natural world, something has already started moving. Stay with me carefully now, because your heart needs this final truth. For so long, you thought your life was falling apart. You thought the delays meant failure. You thought the silence meant abandonment. You thought the repeated battles meant you were forgotten. But my beloved child, heaven never stopped working around your life. Not for one moment. While you were crying, I was protecting. While you were waiting, I was preparing. While you were feeling exhausted, I was strengthening hidden parts of your spirit that future blessing will require. And now, after all the refining, all the healing, all the painful lessons, you are no longer the same person you once were. The fearful version of you is fading. The hopeless version of you is fading. The version of you that believed struggle was permanent is fading, because identity restoration has already begun. You are starting to see yourself differently now. Not as abandoned, not as cursed, not as forgotten, but chosen. My beloved child, there is a reason this message found you at this exact moment. Because your spirit needed confirmation before manifestation fully arrives. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. Romans 8:28. Notice carefully what this means. Not some things, all things, even the delays, even the heartbreaks, even the financial pressure, even the silent seasons that nearly broke your heart. I have been weaving purpose through all of it. You thought the battle was destroying you, but the battle was shaping you. Stay with me now, because this next truth changes everything. The battle was never proof that God abandoned you. It was proof your destiny was valuable. Darkness does not waste energy attacking empty futures. The resistance around your life became intense because your breakthrough carries weight. Your healing carries weight. Your future carries weight. Your peace carries weight. And the enemy hoped exhaustion would stop you before you discovered who you truly were. But it failed. You are still here, still listening, still searching, still hoping. And that alone is evidence that heaven has been sustaining you this entire time. My beloved child, delay is ending. Not because you earned my love perfectly, not because you became flawless, but because seasons change. And the season of endless emotional survival is not your permanent home. You have carried pressure long enough, carried fear long enough, carried silent exhaustion long enough. Now restoration is beginning quietly. Peace is returning. Clarity is returning. Strength is returning. And even financially, doors will begin shifting in ways you did not expect. Not rushed, not chaotic, aligned, because what comes from me carries peace with it. My child, some opportunities are already moving toward your life right now. Conversations you cannot yet hear. Connections you have not yet met. Doors forming quietly behind the scenes. And this time, you will enter differently. Not from desperation, from wisdom. Not from panic, from peace. Not trying to prove your worth, but understanding your identity already belongs securely in me. That changes everything. Because healed people carry blessing differently than wounded people do. You are no longer chasing survival the same way. You are learning trust, learning discernment, learning spiritual authority. And those things will stabilize your future far more deeply than money alone ever could. Stay with me carefully now. I know there are still moments fear tries returning. Moments where anxiety whispers, what if nothing changes? But you must no longer agree with the voice of hopelessness. That voice kept your bloodline trapped for too long. You are entering a new season now. A season where fear no longer controls every decision. A season where peace begins replacing panic. A season where your mind slowly stops expecting disaster every time hope appears. Because healing has already begun inside you, and internal transformation always comes before visible manifestation. My beloved child, one day you will look back at this season differently. You will realize the waiting was not empty. The delays protected you. The silence matured you. The struggle refined you. And the person you are becoming now is far stronger than the version of you that first entered this battle. You survived things that should have crushed your spirit completely. And yet here you are, still breathing, still believing, still capable of loving, still capable of dreaming again. That is not weakness. That is grace carrying you, my beloved child. Your future is not cursed. Your story is not over, and your family line does not end in hopelessness. What I started in your life, I will continue completing. The healing, the restoration, the peace, the wisdom, the breakthrough, all of it is unfolding step by step. And though you cannot yet see the full picture, trust me now more than ever, because what is coming will make sense of what once felt confusing. The tears were not wasted. The delays were not meaningless. The process was not punishment. You were being prepared for a future stronger than your past pain. Stay with me now for this final truth. Do not measure your life only by what has not happened yet. Measure it also by what should have destroyed you, but did not. You should have lost your faith completely. You should have surrendered to bitterness. You should have stopped believing in better days. But somehow, even through exhaustion, your spirit kept reaching for hope. That was me holding you together. My beloved child, the shift has already begun. Even now, even here, even before you fully understand it. And one day, the same story that almost broke, you will become proof that healing, restoration, and freedom are possible for others too. Before we close, type Amen if you receive this word. Subscribe to stay connected to these messages, and share this with someone carrying silent battles tonight, because another soul needs this reminder desperately. And never forget this, my child, what was meant to break you will become the testimony that frees others.